brother was the only family I had. And in terms of sheer power, I'm stronger than he was.
What's up, guys? It's Real Stone Cheesy. The new story just came out, so you know that's pretty cool. If you can even call it a story, I mean, this is a 10 out of 10 chapter for an entire story, though. What happened here? All right, they should have just ended the season with Sin. They're just like, all right, so Sin's coming, so all you Sin hooligans, there you go. I don't even think Delilah's gonna be playable at this point. I'll be honest with you, Chief. But what about Slayer, who's been into that? But what about Testament? They just got at it, bro. What about all the mysteries with Happy Chaos, man? But again, great chapter, 10 out of 10. But story-wise, a little sus. So yeah, man. Today I just want to like break it down, you know, explain everything, because a lot of people are like confused or say like only the Baiken parts were good and confused about XYZ. And kind of a lore night. It was fantastic, by the way. Like, oh my god, the thing it did for so many characters, amazing, right? But yeah. So, and by the way, just again, make sure you go watch the story first if you haven't. It's 40 minutes. It's not. It's gonna take you less than an hour. Like, just do it. Just get out of here. You know the vibes. But I'll leave timestamps here. You know, here. So if you see them, just please skip to the parts that you want to watch. I don't. If you want to watch the whole thing, it's gonna be long as hell, right? Do it, please. It would mean a lot to me if you want to, but I get it. So skip to where you wanna. But yeah, let's just get started, right? The first thing that we see is, you know, that whole thing with Kai Kisuke at the beginning. We don't see him. We just hear about him. It just is a little random, but I guess we can shout him out, sure. Because literally it's just like, right? Because it's like, all right, Kai Kisuke carved his name into history. Kai, the charismatic young king, had countless tales of heroicism under his name. However, such tales only tell one side of the story of Kai's extraordinary rise. This is not Kai Kisuke's story, but this one episode along his path to bring humankind and gears into coexistence and becoming a singular historical presence. The world watched in terror as the White House fell under attack. But in the meanwhile, somewhere out of sight, another story was unfolding. Okay, so they're even like, yeah, who cares about Kai, though? I mean, again, he's been pushing the coexistence of gears and human more than anyone else. This is what he wants, right? Like, you see that part gears like Sin are in this vibe and help him. We see Ram, she's not a gear, but, you know, she's a non-human, right? Which we'll touch back on later, because they use that term quite a bit too, as well as Dr. Paragon help, the dragons help, so it's just nice to see that his dreams coming true. I guess he did push for it, so maybe that's why we're shouting out. Just feels a little weird, but hey, it is what it is, right? Now we finally get into the action, right? We see Ram, we see Baiken, we see two Phalanx 9 soldiers. We know that Ram from the GG Glossary, her arcade, Faust arcade, she says she's now, a special brigade leader or commander for the Illyrian government. That's cool, makes sense. I mean, she's done a lot. Why won't she work? I mean, look at her. Look at her go. She's cute. She vibing. She's a dope leader. Hell yeah. So it's also interesting to see the Phalanx 9 work under her. I mean, they might not work directly under her, but I mean, given that there was like a bigger threat going on, right? Like they might have just sent her and then two strong people and had everyone else deal with the situation at the White House, right? So that is what it is. Of course, Baiken's there too. She's looking for Delilah. I also like that Ram's like, you're not on my potential list of insurgents. You're on my, emergency consultants. Because we've seen that her, and a lot of other characters in the past, they're strong and they are dangerous, right? But in Zerd, right, when she was just helping defend the tree and like helping people, like she's the type of person that if she can help, she will. Like she could be easily persuaded, right? Like a lot of people, if it's to save the world. So again, it makes sense. We also got people probably on that list like Jam, Faust. That's probably the reason he's there. Same with May. Same with maybe even Venom, right? Because Venom helped out a lot. I mean, he's working at a bakery, but they need his special skills. I'm sure that he wouldn't say no, of course. Then of course we get into the little backflash we see with Baiken, where Anji gives Delilah over to Baiken.
Delilah, that's all she told me. I assume it's her name.
That's all she told me. That's clearly a lie, as we'll see later on, which is fine. It's sweet, right? Like Anji probably knows Baiken well enough to figure that this is the best way to get her to take Delilah and then hopefully grow as a person, right? Like he knows how to, he knows how to help her without helping her, so without making her think that he's helping her. So that's cute and all. So is what it is, right? Delilah then senses Happy Chaos all the way over the freaking United States at the White House. This does give us actually a good timeline of like the events, because we see that the White House is flying, Tir Nanog, right? Happy Chaos seems to be by himself, and he's drinking that coffee, so he's either... It's probably like right after when Daryl like got all the hostages out. Maybe when he was looking at the window, he was actually looking over at Delilah. Maybe that was right before that. You know? Could be. You never know, but... And gives us a good idea, of course, which is nice. Then Delilah says the thing we've all been waiting for her to say, right?
Now I'll avenge my brother.
So, yeah, she does indeed obviously blame that man, Happy Chaos, for killing her brother. Again, she's just shooting straight to the root of the problems. This to me also implies that she was either aware of another presence inside of Ariel's, or felt once Happy Chaos, was ripped out of Ariel's, and it was like, oh yes, that's the true culprit. But I like to believe in the first one more, because as we also learn a bit later, she's stronger, possibly. She's smarter too than Bedman. Like, she's still young, she can't control it as well, but damn, And I've seen some people confused, like, oh, why is she pissed at Happy Chaos and Ariel, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing you gotta realize, all right? Let me paint the picture, right? Delilah's asleep, Bedman's asleep. Bedman gets woken up thanks to the help of Ariel's. He helps Ariel's. He's like, yeah, I love Ariel. She's great. But she's making him do all this shitty stuff. And he's like, oh, it's fine. I'll survive everybody. But she has no intentions of letting that happen, all right? She's a bully. She's not nice. So, he fights. He does his thing. He gets killed, like, on death's door by Venom and Robokai. Universal Will's there. And, he's like, all right, I pass my dream on to you. I'll do what I can. And she's like, ha ha, Lamau, prank son. What, you thought you could trust me? That is hilarious. And yeah, that kind of sucked. But then he died before he could do anything. But again, she was like, all right, Ariel's is the reason you don't messed up stuff. But there was a presence inside of her, as we learned, Happy Chaos, which is actually making her insane. Because we see after Happy Chaos was ripped out in story 1, there's a longer explanation than you want, but I've seen people confused with this, so I want to break it down. Happy Chaos was like the poison inside of Ariel's. Ariel's was gonna like kill humans. She wanted to when she was a Universal Will, but couldn't. So she injected like Eno's, like the part of the original ripped out of Eno. I'll explain that more, but essentially she made Happy Chaos insane. Needed humanity's perspective to beat humanity. Put Happy Chaos inside of her. Sounds dirty, is what it is, right? And then that's why she became like even more insane, and that's what is ultimately the problem, because she was actually able to kill humans, betray humans, and do all this mess up stuff, right? So now that we got that cleared up, that is why she's pissed at Happy Chaos, because she's very smart, and she realizes like Ariel's would not have been able to do this if it wasn't for Happy Chaos, and Happy Chaos was ultimately the one who made Ariel's. So again, being big brain, she's shooting straight for the top, not like Venom or anything that killed him. So dope. Anywho, we see that her long-range teleportation fails. Did Chaos mess with it? Maybe. It's not impossible to think that, right? But it probably just messed up. Because the reason for that too is maybe because she did seem like surprised that it didn't work, like she was prepared to work it. But that is what it is. This also gives like a lot more credibility, a lot more impressiveness, I guess, to people who can use long-range teleportation. Right, like Eno and Azuna, they're obviously backyard apparitions. Bedman, we don't know exactly he was doing a lot of teleporting. I assume he's long-range teleportation. Same with Ariel's, but again, we know it's like not something everybody can do. And to see that she's struggling to do it so much, so it's like it's going to cause all this damage because she has all this power. Again, it gives more validity to all these powerful characters like Azuna, like Eno, like Ariel's, like Bedman, which is super cool. And again, to be fair, Delilah probably can, like she knew what to do, but it is what it is. And if her brother can do it, she'll be able to do it eventually, right? And this also does kind of confirm that like the difficulty between long-range and short-range teleportation is struggling, right? Because we see characters like Faust use short-range teleportation. Testament, they can use short-range teleportation. Bedman for sure. Like again, it's not confirmed that Bedman could use long-range teleportation. We saw him use short-range, but it's probably that, right? But again, interesting, and seeing how dangerous it is, it also would explain probably why people don't even like attempt to do it. Because if it's gonna create like a massive like explosion that's gonna kill everybody every time you try to do it, it makes sense. Maybe long range teleportation is one of the 6 banned magic spells. And if it's going to cause all the damage, we see now why people tend not to do that. And of course, obviously, we see that like Delilah can't fully control her power. This and a later statement are very important. It explains why she wasn't being able to be taken out of the dream world by Aerials, but Bedman was. Like I kind of touched on the Delilah lore video and the speculation. We know that she's more powerful than Bedman and that she can't control her powers as well. So due to that reason, it was probably unable to take Ariel. Aerials was unable to take her out, and Bedman was unable to find like a natural way to take her out. And again, that adds up, right? So it explains. I just like that they kind of give us like a easy to explain reason to why we needed to perform a miracle to get her out of the dream world, instead of just like, oh well, we just couldn't get her out. She was just dumber. No, she's literally more powerful, probably more intelligent, just can't control it as well, right? It's also funny to see, in my opinion, because we see one of the Phalanx Nine like talking equal to Baiken, and like, okay, you gotta realize these are like the Phalanx Nine are some of the 9 strongest soldiers in the world. Like, they all, and we saw them in Zerd fight characters like again, Baiken, Zato, Slayer, Milia, Chip, Ram, like a lot of characters, and almost every single one of them went out of the way. Like, damn, these soldiers are extremely powerful. We saw them like stall Ram, we saw them fight all these people, so it's good to see that they're not pushovers, right? And the whole, she's gonna jump far. The blast will destroy the city. Again, that explains the drama. So, is what it is. Yeah, but this next line, I'll just let it play. This is some really interesting lore stuff, right?
She's as strong or stronger than she was back in the cradle.
Yeah, this is some really interesting things, right? Because A, it just tells us where her body was being held this whole time, in the cradle, which is, I guess, just because she's a kid, that's kind of funny. But why was she being held in the cradle, right? Like, Bedman probably knew she was there, and of course Ram probably knew because, it was interesting because she kind of says like, oh, it makes sense if she was, Bedman's sister. Maybe she didn't know that they were connected, but again, since she worked under Aerials and Aerials knew Bedman and all that, so that's how she connects, knows them all. But the interesting thing to note here too is as stronger or stronger, implying that Ram, even though it's just through Ari telling her, knew how strong she was somehow. So here's the speculation, because we know the cradle was extremely powerful, like bomb, and I'm not saying that she's almost doing the same exact thing here, but she's almost doing the exact same thing here. What if secretly they were using her as like a battery to run and operate the cradle? Because, okay, she, as Ram points out, she has the power right now to wipe out thousands of people below her. Like, you know how freaking dark this would be and messed up, right? Because Delilah still probably doesn't think that she's killed anybody, but damn, like, imagine learning that they were using you as a literal bomb to wipe out thousands of people. You were just a kid, like, asleep, and they're just harnessing your energy. Like, oh, Jesus Christ. That's some dark shit if that is, but it would kind of add up and explain to us why the cradle was able to just wipe out and be so powerful, right? Because it was just kind of this super weapon of destruction, but if it was drawing on the power of Delilah, that's going to just explain to us and show just even more how powerful Delilah is, because we're already getting very hyped up about how strong Delilah is, but also just, again, a really dark turn. And again, Ariel's met Delilah. Like she said that, like, oh, I've seen, Bedman, your smile reminds me of Delilah's, like, you don't have a care in the world. So, again, it wouldn't be just like she used Bedman as a pawn and, didn't tell him. She might have abused and used Delilah in a similar way and, didn't tell Bedman and just, again, saw her as a pawn. So, I mean, that's all just speculation, but I hope we get some answers to that, because that could be really dark and really an interesting thing to see Delilah have to deal with inside. And like I said, it explains the screws. I mean, it's also nice to see that, like, they did try, because, again, Ram saw that her body was being held somewhere, so nice to know that they did put in the effort to try to save her. But next things that we see is that May squad is on their way. Again, this is probably, like, from that list of potential consultants, right? Or maybe actually May works, and some of the Jellyfish Spires work for the Illyrian government now. Maybe, we'll have to see. Again, similar to Zato and Milia, right? Like, you're like, oh, well, they were pirates. Well, I mean, the Illyrian government's very willing to hire, like, underground people if they're trying to make reform and they can trust that they're trying to do that. So it's not out of the picture. I mean, May's obviously not as threatening as those two, so we'll have to see on that. That would be interesting. It's also good because Ram also points out, like, oh, well, the Illyrian's like, oh, well, why don't we call for actual backup? And it's like, well, they have their shit tied. They have their hands tied with everything that's going on over at the White House. So let's deal with this, because like, what are actually, like, because you're like, oh, it could blow in a second, it could blow up in like a day, and it's like, well, what's gonna happen? Like, either we stop this now, like more people are not gonna solve this problem. We've got to do this, and we've got to do this now. So nice to see Ram take initiative, be a good leader, and explain why we didn't see her, why she didn't like contact them and tell them about this issue. Because again, she already knew that they had their hands full of it. So dope. And then, you know, so one of the Phalanx Nine makes a bit of a mistake, you could say.
Our best chance may be to attack the girl directly.
Wait! Bedman.
So, I mean, you can't be threatened her. Can't be threatened her, right? But it is fun to see too that like Baiken is actually the first one to sense it. So good senses, hell yeah, let's fucking go. Ram calls the bed Bedman, clearly confused, makes sense again. She knew who Bedman was, and it's the same bed. Like I thought maybe it was gonna be a different bed, but it is indeed the same bed. So explains why she's confused about that. It is nice too. I love the attention to detail. The bed immediately goes after for the Phalanx Nine that threatened Delilah. So again, he's just like, I'm going for you first. Probably then assess like Ram and Baiken are stronger than them, or that other Phalanx Nine is stronger. So, see about that. And like I said, this is the same bed, other than the new crown, which it has like this wavy like thingy to it, right? Meaning that maybe it's being controlled by the back through the backyard remotely or something. Maybe it's as I don't really know, but that's just an interesting kind of detail that they kept on there, right? That's really my prediction about that. It also has both its eyes damage, a lot of other damage. So that's why it kind of looks completely new. And again, we saw that like got also kind of nuked with Venom's attack, so explains it. I looked back; it looks a little different, but I mean, if it's been taking damage over the time, it's what it is. And again, it has the dreamlike reality. It's the same things on the hand, so I think myself and a lot of people can confidently say this is, you know, the same bed, right? And you know, it's not Bedman anymore though, since he is a
Dead man.
get it, Bedman, dead man, pretty funny. But I mean, yeah, he's dead. The bed's still going on. Clearly, it was like ordered or is protecting Delilah from threats, right? It could either be like my two theories on this is Bedman spent all of his time on the bed, so maybe it like absorbed some of his magic, right? Because we know he's big intellect, big magic. He only was using like percents of his power, like very low percents. We never really got to see him go all out, but maybe it had all that magic in it. It's kind of trying to carry on his will since it has his magic in it. And I think that's probably the most logical theory, since it does seem to have like limited magic. Like even here, we see it not even using like a lot of Bedman techniques. It's using very simple attacks. So if it's running unlimited magic, hey, that makes sense, right? Or we could go off. It also explains why it's not regenerating too, because that probably takes quite a bit of magic. And then as well as like later on why it like dies, right? Because it finally ran out of magic doing all this like actual spell stuff to help Delilah. Or it could be being controlled remotely, which again, the crown, we know that there's like demi-human, maybe one of the paradox versions or alternate universe versions of him is just a bed, because we do know that like paradox and alternate versions can be kind of funny sometimes, as Happy Chaos explains, right? So it wouldn't be a shocker to think like maybe one sensed Delilah in this world and then came to like help her. So I think the first one makes more sense, but you know, it's not a bad theory, right?
Yeah, but and like obviously the knight says like, you know, why is it attacking us? Because he said to attack the girl, just obviously kind of reinforcing like why it's attacking, why it's just appeared now, since she's probably not really been threatened before. Like no one's looked at her and been like, oh, we need to kill that child, right? But it's also probably been following Delilah, right? That wouldn't be hard to believe. We do see a teleport. It's probably just been lurking around. So neato. And then, you know, the reveal of the century. Sin shows up, man. Look at him go. Look at him vibe. And some folks have been thinking like, oh, he's a Phalanx 9. He's dressed like that because he wants to hide his identity. Nah. Ram wasn't, surprised. So of course she probably knew. But since the Phalanx 9 worked for the Illyrian government, he might have been recruited by them and is working as it, right? And given too that like literally 3 weeks ago they fought several powerful people like we just talked about. We knew that they were like messed with by the universal will and like basically used as like slaves under Ariel's, right? Makes sense that either maybe one or more of them died or just wanted to retire, you know? And I don't think anybody would blame them for, again, being abused, traumatic experience, wanting to retire. So yeah, but you know, if there was a spot left open and they were like, hey, why not Sin? So adds up. And also explain why he says like, I hate wearing the armor, seeing as maybe it's like a formality that he like has to do, right? So that's kind of what that, my opinion on that, right? My kind of thought process. But also like Sin, you know, then whips out his flag. You know, we get to see his new little redesign, the little hello stuff. So you know, all very fun, all very cute, of course.
I mean, with that new redesign, right? I mean, it's probably gonna be playable. I mean, let's be real, right? I don't know. We look at Delilah, but she just didn't do that much. I mean, she sounds like she's gonna try to stay out of the fighting, you know. Which, I mean, to be fair, Testament's trying to. It sounds like Venom might come back. He's trying to stay out of fighting, but we'll see. But I mean, just put in Sin. Just do it. It'll be a great fit, right? But of course, Sin then stops the fighting, calling out Bedman, gets him to stop. Sin reassures it, you know, the bed, that they're here to help Delilah. And, you know, he's all like, oh, well, we can't just abandon her. Help's on its way. Just believe. And I think these words really got through to Bedman because in life, we knew that he wanted Delilah to have friends, right? Given that they, you know, had none in the dream world. Seeing how he was, you know, betrayed by the only person he really thought he could call a comrade or friend, of course being Ariel's, makes sense why he acted the way he did. These friends of Delilah were going to betray her. So, of course, he freaks out thinking that the same thing's going to happen, right? Where, you know, he had a friend who could have saved her. I mean, she ultimately set him up to be screwed, as we talked about earlier. But, again, seeing a similar situation, I'm sure that's why, you know, he got pissed and freaked out. Seeing the jellyfish pirate ship, of course, as well as just everyone there calming down, wanting to help Delilah. The bed finally, you know, goes over to help Delilah, calms down, and assists them by putting up barriers around her. So, you know, of course, then, you know, we see the short range teleportation. Dope, glad the bed can do that. And again, if we're going off this theory that the bed's being controlled by like a limited magic supply, it really just shows how much he cares about Delilah and is trusting these people, and he's just kind of like burning through it by teleporting, making all these barriers, right?
Brother. What do I do? I tried to stop it, but it's way too much for me.
Again, if we go off this idea that Delilah can kind of like sense presences inside others, just like with Happy Chaos, that man inside Ariel's, she might have sensed Bedman's like magic inside the bed frame. And again, it just kind of supports the idea that like this is connected to Bedman. And we already got that, but it's not just like a literal robot that like Bedman created to protect Delilah in time. So it probably is literally linked to his magic, linked to his spirit, or something in some way, right? And it is really sweet to again see how trusting the bed is, because this is the future that Bedman wants. And in Bedman's final moments, I mean, he was surrounded by no one except the one person he thought he could trust, who then betrayed him, right? And instead, you know, she's not even gonna die. It's not even that serious, but just the fact that she's gonna like do something horrific and these people want to save her, again, speaks to him. It's literally like, if you kind of look back, right, it's very much paralleling, as I'll go into a bit later as well, like the story of Bedman, where he's about to die, surrounded by the only person he can trust. And instead, she's not gonna die, but she's surrounded by people that Delilah doesn't even know, who are so willing and ready to save her. And then we get to meet on the jellyfish pirate ship. We see the door, of course. Faust is vibing. And Faust is all like a girl. And as we see later with like the whole square one thing, right? Seeing a small girl possibly about to die. I guess he probably doesn't play that. But you know, when he once had that small girl in his care, I'm sure that's really impactful because again, just being a small girl relates to his past. And that's also why we'll see through this chapter, he's probably so dedicated to saving her. Because while a young girl died under his care, under conspiracy theory, you know, against the odds, because the Conclave kind of made it happen, now he's given the opportunity to save a young girl, against the odds from killing all these people. And again, that would reset him back to square one by kind of balancing out his trauma, right? And then Ram also touches on, like, it's a super high density info space. We know that Delilah is very smart and can handle all the information, right? We also know that the backyard's just all information. So teleportation probably involves the backyard a lot more than normal, right? It is what it is. And it kind of gives us a glimpse into like why Bedman and Delilah probably like die if they're like awake without the miracle or Bedman can't just being alive. Just because again they were talking about there's too much information, it would just like kill them, and that's what it's literally doing to Ram and Baiken. Just like probably a fraction of power is enough to hurt them a lot. And Ram also brings up a really interesting thing here.
The city's not the backyard or the real world, and she's too immature to maintain the integrity of the field.
Because Delilah's not fully able to control her power, right? She's not creating like a unique area, and if these people try to leave, they could just die from the information density, like rapid change. Maybe like water, right? Where like if you come up from like too low of the water too quickly, like you could die and all that. So better not to risk it, I suppose. And we see here too that like it says May's ship, so cool. We don't even hear about John or like the other crew members. So curious what they're up to. I still think there's a decent chance that Johnny shows up, in this new story that we'll hopefully get next time, or in season 2. So I'll have to see on that, of course. And then while talking about why isn't she after Aerials, as we kind of discussed earlier, and we're also just ignoring Robokai and Venom, but they're not after. She's not after Aerials because she realized this. She's going straight for the top. Is what it is. Cool, vibing, right? And the next thing is Baiken actually does mention, like, when they're talking about Aerials, that it's like, oh shit, Sin wasn't messing with me. So how Sin knew about this, right? This is my guess, because in story 1, Kai, Jacko, and Soul put it together that Happy Chaos was inside Aerials, and that's what Ino took, like, after they interrogated her and talked it out for a while. So Kai probably told Sin that, and then Sin eventually told Baiken? But just that doesn't because here's where the shit starts to break apart, right? We know that before they interview Ino about Happy Chaos, they did that whole chase thing, and Anji before that chase knew who Delilah was, which is already weird enough, right? Because Anji just left Delilah. They're in Illyria, so it's not impossible. They weren't in America, so it's not impossible thing. But it's alright, whatever. But that just happened. So when did Sin tell her about that? Why is he oh, what you see is what you get? I hope we get more into this, because this just does not add up with the timeline of events that we currently realize now. So if Sin also recognized that Happy Chaos was inside of Ares this whole time, why didn't he say anything? That whatever. Just a little tangent, but that's really the only part of the story that really gets confusing. But Baiken also then obviously goes into why do you think she's been sticking around with me? Because Baiken's been keeping up with that man, knows that there's 2 that man, but it's really who's Anji's been doing all the research. He's just kind of been piggybacking off that, and clearly Sin knows more. Bro, what is happening? But yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and confirmation here, right?
Sometimes looks are deceiving, but sometimes you see what you get. The one Delilah's after was once inside Aerials, and she's definitely not the first. I know, because he's my prey too. He's that man.
I mean, this does continue to help give us a good idea of the Happy Chaos, the timeline, because while we know he's been inside Aerials probably for the longest, because I did say he was wandering the backyard and Aerials put him inside of her, so again, we need a lot. This is why just this story is I'm glad that we're adding more mystery, but this was supposed to be the story that answered some of these mysteries for us, man. I guess beforehand, while he was in that crazy state, he was influencing people, and that's how he met Nago. Maybe he went inside other people, and then Aerials who the fuck knows? That's what it is, right? But yeah, and then we also, of course, now we know why Baiken's following, or Delilah's following Baiken, because that, and then Anji's probably hyped her up because he was the one who gave her over. So we'll see. But now we finally get into the backflash. I'm so hyped. I love this backlash. It's dope. It's dope. And of course, we see Anji wants her to take Delilah to the police. Anji's smart enough to realize Delilah's not going to go. Just wanted to get them alone, of course, you know, so that they could bond. Cute, cute. Anji makes mirrors now.
Me? I'm busier than I look. Mirrors don't make themselves, you know?
Mirrors now, too?
Mirror of the world. That song is just the story, I guess. But yeah, Baiken wants to go to America, seeing that's where, you know, that man's headed, which again makes sense because Anji probably just met that. Happy Chaos and Chip and Anji probably put it together like, oh yeah, he's heading to America, and then Chip goes to America. But how the fuck did, well, Chip started. Chip's fast, I guess, but like Chip and Happy Chaos got to America. Fucking Delilah and Baiken were nowhere near America. So when that whole like walking montage, was that like, I figured that's just a day. I guess she's not going that fast. I guess she was in no hurry to get there. I don't know. Or to be fair, Anji probably came back and told her later, right? It wasn't probably like, he probably came back several days and that was like the day before. So again, they were not in a hurry. He could have called her and got her over there, but I guess he didn't want her to go confront Happy Chaos, knowing that probably wouldn't end too well. Yeah, and Anji, you know, that mentions like, you know, I'm not the only one that can talk you out of your revenge, you know? So like, check my mirror someday. You'll see.
Check my mirror someday. You'll see.
Check my mirror. Check yourself.
I'm gonna do that every time, okay? Of course, this story, some people think that it relates to Anji, that, you know, mirror of the world, but I think more apparently now it does relate to Delilah. So that's cool, because again, Delilah is exactly what Baiken used to be, what Baiken was like as a child. So seeing, quote, herself in Delilah will probably be a good way for her to finally move on, see what she's become, see what she's almost trying to make Delilah become. You know, stop wasting time and live a good life and be happy. Hell yeah. And Delilah, of course, hides from the police. A little cutie, she's just gone. Baiken's all like, not my problem. Of course, she stays with Baiken, you know, because she's taking down that man, so of course. And since Baiken's going to America to kill that man, of course she's gonna stick with her so they can murder her together. As well as other reasons that we'll touch on later, because I do think their connection goes deeper, and we do get some hints about why Delilah really probably likes Baiken, on top of just obviously having the same goal. You know, when Delilah finally reappears, one kind of small detail that you'll see right here is like that hand thing that we saw earlier. Like Delilah does that for the first time, so it is cute and cool how they like were hinting at it early on. And then we get this cute little, you know, Delilah Baiken montage of Delilah following Baiken and Baiken getting annoyed.
Stop following me. Go away. One more step, and I cut you down.
So, you know, that's pretty fun. And then we get over to, you know, the campfire where, you know, we get to see Delilah sleep with her eyes open and drooling. And it's cute, but also just shows you how vulnerable and loose she is willing to be around Baiken, right? Like, she's just letting her guard down. Either knowing from Anji or just sensing it that Baiken's not going to hurt her and probably not even abandon her at this point. And then we get into their conversation, which really explains a lot, again, about their relationship and why she's probably so attached to Baiken.
Delilah, was it? What are you, girl?
I'm after the same person as you. To avenge my brother.
Huh? Damn it, Anji. What'd you get me into?
I asked Mr. Mito for help. When I told him my story, he sent me your way, Miss Baiken.
So again, after the same person, that man. They probably don't even know it's named Happy Chaos at this point, is what it is, makes sense. So I'm glad they don't call him Happy Chaos in this story. But it also is obviously pointed out that, like, you know, Mr. Mito, you know, told Mr. Mito my story, he sent me your way. Again, Anji lied to Baiken. I mean, that's fine. It just goes to show how much Anji cares, but also knows Baiken. Like, he knows how to get her to choose something, get her to change. Because if he would have just told her, like, oh yeah, I found this girl named Delilah. She's exactly like you and wants to hunt down that man. Baiken would have been like, no, I'm not going to see her. I don't need help. I don't want to drag another little girl into this, but because of this, you know, the lie, he was able to get them together just like that.
First rule, no miss.
Then how about Big Sis?
Do you want me to cut you?
Cute, right? I mean, this also this is at least one of two things, right? It does also kind of point towards and tie back to that like social awkwardness that we knew she had from that first article, which we really don't see too much in this story, sadly. But again, it was hinted at, so this probably is referring to that as well. But also just that she probably wants to see Baiken and like be close to her, be connected to her, and see her and be able to call her Big Sis, like very familiar roles. She doesn't have anyone else, and I mean, like she says, like I'm after the same person that you are. Like we're similar, so she just wants to form that connection, and she looks up to her, I'm sure, which is cute.
So it's revenge you're after. I know I'm one to talk, but what'll you get out of it?
I think you know, Big Sis. The same thing as you.
Do you know what goodbye means? It's a word that changes as you grow.
I'm plenty grown already.
I'm not. And I don't trust people who think they are. Listen, I know you don't want to hear this, but revenge is no
You
game.
think everything's a game to me just because I'm 12?
You'll waste your life. Is that what you want?
I mean, as we can see, Baiken's literally finding every excuse in the book. Like, literally, there's nothing Delilah can say here that's going to work on it, right? If she said, like, oh, I don't think I'm mature yet, Baiken would have just been like, yeah, so I'm not going to take you, you know? It doesn't matter what she's answered. Baiken's literally finding any reason not to take her on this journey. And it makes sense. It's sweet. She doesn't feel like she's ready, but as we can see, Delilah's not, she's not letting up. She knows that she's powerful. She knows with Baiken's help that they can probably get, you know, she can probably avenge her brother and help Baiken reach her goal as well.
I won't if you'll teach me. I can help you.
Look around. See the company you're in? I've always been alone. Have you ever dug through garbage for your next meal, girl? Do you know how scary it is to steal so much you feel the guilt melt away? Pfft. If you want to stand on my level, you're gonna have to.
Baiken is like trying to one-up Delilah and like force her of like, hey, if you want to join this revenge path, you're gonna have to like measure up to what I did. You're gonna have to go through the same pain, the same suffering, the same work that I've had to. And we literally just saw where she's like, no, I don't want you into this. To now, like, sure, you can come out on this, but you're gonna have to fucking suffer, right? And this isn't like an uncommon thing. This is a very human thing. This is very just so real. And that's why I think this moment just hits so hard, right? There's that sudden switch of like, she's almost prideful. She's almost like, if I'm the revenge girl. Like if you wanna join me, if you wanna be, you're gonna have to measure up to me. It's almost like gatekeeping her, right? Like if we look at the FGC's terms, but it's just really real and just really beautiful to see just something so real happen. And then what she even does after this is, goddamn, man.
Gonna have to. No. You shouldn't be like me.
And then like you just said, like right after trying to then push Delilah down to like her level essentially, she then realizes what she's doing, which is, again, she's just grown so much in literally one conversation where she's like, I don't even want your help. It's like, I'll take your help, but to now she's like, I don't want you to live this life. Oh my god. Again, beautiful, but again, seeing the hand, seeing the mirror, recognizing finally what Anji's words meant, she's just like, no, I can't put this life on her. I can't get ahead of myself. This little girl, yeah, she can help me, but this isn't what she needs, and I need to just push her away and not let her live this life.
But why not?
Terrorists. It's him.
The White House.
Hey, where are you going?
I'm through asking for help. I'll do this alone too.
Delilah's done asking for help. She's going by herself, right? Seeing that Baiken's not gonna help her, like, what is she gonna do? She tried with Anji, now she's tried with Baiken. like she wants her revenge and she wants to have someone help her do it, right? Especially because Baiken is like what she wants to be, this vengeance-driven person who's going to kill the person that she's been dreaming of killing, right? But they don't want to help her, and that's hard for her to accept. But she just has to accept it, right?
Not happening.
Why not?
It's a long way to go to die. No one will visit your grave.
Nobody would anyway. My brother was the only family I had. And in terms of sheer power, I'm stronger than he was.
Victory's not everything. You've got a whole lot more to learn about the world, girl.
But why?
You won't give up on your revenge no matter what anyone says. Am I wrong? That's something we've got in common. So even if you won't listen to anyone else, here's hoping you'll hear me out. Let me handle this. You need something better than this shitty life.
But why?
We need all the decent adults we can get.
But why?
Talk about a problem, child.
Tell me why! I know. You'll think I'll mess it up because I'm a child. Or do you just not want me stealing your prize? I don't want to get in your way or take anything from you. So why? Why can't we just kill him together?
Together.
Don't you see I'm trying to kill someone? How could I possibly grow up to be a decent adult if I want someone dead so badly? Delilah!
This whole conversation and sequence, it's just fantastic, man. I mean, with Baiken, we've seen, although she's grown so much in such a short time, that it's still not enough to help Delilah at the end of the day, and that she's gonna have to push herself even more emotionally and maturity-wise if she wants to help Delilah, and ultimately, at the end of the day, help herself move on, right? To get over her revenge, because she couldn't convince Delilah, just as she could never convince herself that she needs to move on from this revenge. And Delilah, I mean, she's made up her mind, right? We can see why. She literally does not care if she dies. She says no one's gonna go and visit her grave. Bedman, the only person who ever cared and loved for her, literally the only person in her life for 12 years, right? I mean, this man, we saw how dedicated and Zerd he was to saving her. It doesn't matter how many lives he had to kill, and just how gentle and kind he was. And on his death row, or with his last bit of energy, instead of saving all those thousands of people that he killed, clearing his conscience, because again, he went out of his way to remember the ID of every single person he killed because he knew that he could bring them back. And instead of clearing that guilty conscience, he saved his sister. He brought her into the world, in a world that they wanted to share but couldn't, because ultimately, due to the influence of Happy Chaos, he died. And now that she knows where that person who killed her brother is, she doesn't care. She literally does not care if she dies. She will avenge her brother, and that's what she wants to do. And while, you know, you look at like Baiken, right? You're like, oh, well, Baiken, out of all of her friends and family, that's a lot more people. When you only have one person in your life, that is your everything. Bedman even said in Zerd, she was stuck in the dream world her whole life. No friends. She didn't even know what her mother looked like. You know? And she's literally had the one thing in her life, the one person taken away from her. And then my favorite line in this whole arcade, in terms of sheer power, I'm stronger than he was. This explains so much, as I talked on earlier, like why she couldn't get out of the dream world, but Bedman could. Because she was younger, had more power, was more inexperienced than him. And while you could say Bedman, you know, used it more effectively, maybe be a better fighter, with Delilah being younger, of course it would take her more time to master this magic and power that she had. And also just makes her a huge threat and an important character no matter what she decides to do moving forward. Look at even Testament, right? They are just this powerful hero who's just chilling. Of course, we see in his arcade that, like, you know, their arcade, that Nangori Yuki and Chip just cannot believe that they're a peaceful person. It's probably going to be the same for Delilah for a lot of her life. But again, I'm so happy they took this route. I didn't think they would, but it just, I'm happy that she's more powerful. And again, I'm just, oh, dude, words cannot just describe how pleased I am with this. And it just doesn't stop emotionally, right? We then get the whole, but why, into her confession, right? That she knows that she's young. She knows that she's immature. She understands that, but she wants to do this together with Baiken. And this shows us why she's following Baiken and why she flies off. Delilah looks up to her, right? She wants to be like Baiken. Baiken is like her hero, her, big sis. She wants to do it with her. And hearing that her hero, the person she's inspiring to almost be like, the person that she wants to do it with, be one of the only people, because again, she's coming into the real world being vulnerable to everybody she's come across. The one person that she can relate to the most hurts her, pushes her away. And that's why she's ending up crying, screaming, and just flies off. And again, it makes sense, and it's so real, right? Because it hurts when the person that you look up to pushes you away. And again, although Delilah's self-aware, she's still immature. So of course she's going to go off and do it alone. Of course she's going to pout. And it just shows us that, yes, even though she is a smart kid, she's still a kid at the end of the day. And being self-aware is another big part of this conversation. Delilah realizes that wanting to kill someone is a horrible thing. She doesn't want to feel this way. That's not what she wants to do. But what is she supposed to do about it? She can't just ignore her feelings. And she's a literal kid, right? She doesn't have the emotional maturity of an adult. And I think that's something that's really hard to understand sometimes in just any media. But it's just done so well here, right? It's so relatable. Because again, we all have problems realistically in our lives that are really hard to overcome. And some of us, we know that we have problems that we need to fix, and we just can't do it. And dude, it's just, oh my God. And again, it's not just for herself, too, that she's pushing herself, but her brother. Again, she probably realizes that her brother, her brother wouldn't want her like this. Her brother wants her to have friends, and, he wants her to be loved. And that's why she's willing to be vulnerable against both Baiken and Anji, telling them her story, being emotional. It's not easy for her, especially when, again, you're in a whole new world. You're alienated. The only person you loved is dead. And because the only person that he trusted betrayed him. Think about that. She knows that the only person that he trusted betrayed him. And, she's still willing to go out and risk that because she knows that's what her brother would have wanted. And that's why she's just pushed herself so far out of her comfort zone. So far, right? And she's pushed herself, and it's just not enough. She can't understand why, even though she's feel like she's doing everything right, why people aren't willing to accept her. Because again, that's what Baiken's doing here. She's pushing her away. Ah, Jesus Christ. It just hurts, right? I don't even know, man. Again, Baiken's response to this, although again, because she knows that she's grown, she can recognize that, it's not enough. And now she regrets it, we see that. Now she really, really cares for Delilah. Now she really wants to help her, recognizing her mistakes. And that's why, again, as we'll see it coming up, she's so willing and connected to Delilah. Because she understands this is what she used to be like, but she also knows that she is quite literally the only person who can help Delilah right now. Anyways, that's the whole spiel on that. That shit is so beautiful, man. Let's get back to the present, though.
If you'd stick with her, she might just give this whole revenge thing up.
Big talk, but it's not that simple.
Never said it was. Between us and the 120 grand people down there, there's one person who can handle this. You.
If you'd stick with her, she might just give up the whole revenge. Of course, obviously it's not that simple, but it kind of is, right? But, it's going to still take a lot of growth from Baiken to do that, for Baiken to be vulnerable finally. She's very prideful, very tough, but if she wants to help Delilah and help herself, she's going to have to be vulnerable in front of Delilah. And that's why, she's the only person who can save Delilah right now. She's the person most attached to her, and she's the person who can most relate to Delilah. And help her calm down. But yeah, then, Faust is all like, oh, well, if we can just get her to calm down, everything will work out. And then we get into the whole, sin baby things. You've all seen it before. It's all over Twitter and YouTube. I'm not going to touch too much on that. And he says his eye popped out, and then his mom's eyes popped out. It's not true. It's not canon-based, but it is pretty funny that they told me that, right? Then the next kind of thing that's really important here, I'd say, is Baiken saying I wish I were half as tough as you are deep down. because Sin's been through some shit, like for real. So it's nice to see other characters around him that can acknowledge that and see that even though he's been through a lot of stuff, he can still smile and get through it and help other people, right? And of course, May and April point out they had Johnny, right? Baiken did not have Johnny. That's kind of partly the reason. It's not like literal Johnny, but it's just not having like someone, a parental figure, an adult, like help you in your times of trouble. Because kids, we all make stupid mistakes, but we have adults there to calm us down and guide us down the right path. And that's why Baiken, she didn't need that, and she didn't have that, and Delilah needs that right now. And of course, that being Baiken. Sin also contacts, is told to go contact Dr. Peregrine. So hey, name drop, love to see it, right? Would it be crazy if they came back later in the story, but probably not, right? Completely irrelevant. Yeah, and then Faust, the whole thing with like him willing to die if he didn't save the girl. Really, it's more of like a selfish desire to try to atone for all the bad he's done, and just because like if you want to go out and die, that's not gonna help anybody. It's kind of taking like the easy way out. Right, like you see that a lot, especially in anime. Like a character just wants to die, but they're forced to go living on for others, right? So, like Reiner from Attack on Titan. Right? So it's an easy story, but like you can't just want to die. Like that's not gonna get you anywhere. You can't die a hero. You actually have to go through, save people, and continue to atone. So, it's nice that Ram is like the necessary voice saying like, hey, you shouldn't kill yourself. Stay alive, work to save this girl, and then atone. And then of course the bed and Delilah. This is also pretty emotional, right?
Stop! Get away from me! I can't control it! Sorry. I'm so sorry. Brother, everyone, I'm sorry.
Again, just very emotional, right? Like Delilah realizes, it's kind of what Baiken was telling her. It just hurts to kind of see it come true. She's not ready for this, She messed up, and now it's putting so many people's lives at risk, right? It's even causing Bedman, that the last remaining part of that, him, to expend all that magic. If you kind of go off this earlier theory of that's why he's dying, or like why he can't regenerate, he's placing all of his magic into helping her, and that's why we see like the arm go down, right? Because again, it's literally running on fuels at that point. And just seeing the May ship that bed, it's just so beautiful to see the person who was betrayed by the only person that he thought he could trust, now trusting complete strangers to save the life of his little sister. And literally, again, in the bed's final use of magic, he reaches to his heart and then points to Delilah's heart, trying to communicate, obviously, that he loves her. He holds Delilah's hand for the last time before all the magic runs out. Emotional. Oh, it's the soul, man. And then the plan to help Delilah. I mean, again, as we see, using the teleportation doors that Faust can create to take some of that information density to another location. We don't know where. It's probably not like that important. Probably just something random. It might be realistically. So just point out, and it makes sense that Faust kind of knows this, right? Like he's not the strongest character. I don't think. He's one of the smartest characters. Right, like easily top 5 smartest magic users in Guilty Gear, like that we've ever seen. I mean, the only people that might trump him are like the original Happy Chaos, Asuka, that man, the devil, all that, and maybe probably Bedman and maybe Delilah. But even then, like Delilah clearly doesn't know how to use magic as well. So again, easily top 5. And then we get, more reinforcement with like, Ram being like, yeah, do you wish to die a hero, or do you wish to save that girl? Like, Faust needs to hear this, because he needs to realize there's a difference between dying a hero and putting your life on the line to save a girl, That's not a way to atone. Putting your life on the line is what you need to do, but if you die here, that's not the same as atoning. And he has to continue to live on to atone if he wants to, And then the whole thing after this, this is just beautiful. I love this part.
I'm not meant to lead now. That's why I need their help. And yours.
Like, this is so far from the truth. I'm not meant to lead now, right? But I guess it just isn't something that Ram is able to recognize in herself, right? But as we've seen throughout this entire story, everyone around her has followed her lead and looked up to her and trusted her, following her example and everything. And it's only fitting that we see while she's saying that one of the Phalanx Nine in the shot, right? One of the people directly under her command. And of course, she then goes into how she wants everyone here to know that she's willing to die to save the girl, but also make sure that everyone gets out alive. Again, just showing how great of a leader she is, right? She's willing to put her life on the line for anyone. She's not selfish. She's not greedy. She's not something like that. But again, she also wants to make sure that everyone gets out of this alive. That's also equally as important to her, of course. And again, it just shows the good side of humanity, like the side of humanity Bedman wanted Delilah to have, right? People so loving and caring that they'd go out of their way, even risk their lives to help someone they don't know. It's the complete opposite of what we saw when Bedman was dying, right? Ariel's, the literal only person that Bedman thought he could trust, was not willing to help him or even allow for his dreams to come true. Even though it literally would have costed her nothing to just try and save and do anything for him. Just making you realize again how tragic Bedman's life was. And how beautiful that this contradictory story that we have for Delilah. It's just beautiful. Fucking amazing, right? Faust then creates the mega door with all the tiny doors, right? To absorb, like I said, the energy. Let the rest disperse. Yeah, you got it. But, this next... again... Oh, gosh, what do I even say?
You actually make a great commander. Working in intelligence, you learn to really listen to people. You may not be human, but you believe in us more than I do.
It is, again, just another really beautiful moment, and I think just the background and everything of this just makes it even more amazing, right? Again, you have a Phalanx 9, a soldier who's literally been messed with, abused, and used by the Universal Will, the person who created Ram, saying this to her. These words have so much more impact because he's saying this, right? And I'm so glad that they actually included one of the Phalanx Nine in the story for this moment. I mean, he could easily hold resentment, right? Rightfully so, towards Ram, towards Alpha, towards anybody like that. Well, especially towards Ram, because he's the one who declared war on the world, right? But, he's now been able to see just how amazing a person she is, how she's grown, and he doesn't care that she's not human, right? He doesn't care about her past. He respects and looks up to her. And again, those words just coming from the right person just hit hard. And it's just so, again, beautiful and nice to see someone who's been through a traumatic event and has someone tied to that trauma, getting over that and just being like, again, hey, you're a great commander. Let me be the one to tell you that. And I think, again, coming from the Phalanx Nine, that was the one person or one of the people who, if Ram hears that from, it's probably going to really mean a lot to her. So absolutely beautiful, just wraps up her story super fucking well with like the Phalanx Nine being evil. Really just shows how not only has she made change, but the people around her can recognize that. Right? And then the whole, the plan's a little too slow, right? Again, we were like, oh, it might be a second, might be a day. So, we see, May again, another stranger to Delilah, right? Doesn't know her, willing to literally put her own life, body on the line. Of course, Baiken helps her out with the good old Escabari. So, that's funny. It's always kind of cool when they tie in stuff like that, right? And then get, Delilah seeing Baiken, and again, seeing the person that she looks up to, the third person that she thought pushed her away, now doing and going out of her way, putting her own life on the line again to save her. Of course, Delilah would be happy about this, but also scared. She's happy to see Baiken does care, but scared that she could end up killing her. Right when she just finally was able to feel accepted by her. And of course, we gotta go even faster, right? And the reason that the Phalanx 9 kind of goes out of the way to help, right, and not Ram, is because I imagine, again, because we learned Faust wants like Ram to kind of absorb that energy, the information density. So it makes sense that the Phalanx 9's like, all right, no, you hold off, you save your power for that, I'm gonna help. So it's just kind of cute. Because again, we also get to see that the Phalanx 9 willing to put his body and all that on the line for Ram. Non-human, and again, the daughter of the one who used him. So just love everything that's developed with their relationship. Because again, this person could easily be pissed at them, right? Like we talked about earlier, Sin. They could have either died or retired, and rightfully so, with how the universal will treated them. And I just want to fanboy about that all day. But anyways, we get into the meme scene with Faust, right? Of square one. Because again, he had a young girl die under his care. So of course, it was a conspiracy, right? But in his eyes, if he can save this girl against the odds, then that will reset him to square one. That will, he's, I guess, -1, this will be +1. So it makes sense, but it's just, again, really beautiful. I like how they're adding Delilah as this character. She's her own person. She has her own motivation, but she's using it. They're using it for so many great plot points, right? Like with Baiken, like with Bedman, like with Faust. It's just the way they're utilizing Delilah while also just making her own character, not just like a plot point, which she is a plot point, right? But she's just gone so much farther than that. It's just, again, it's just incredible to see everything kind of come to a close. And obviously they're about to struggle. Everything's like looking like, oh god, it's about to end here. But oh boy, Sin shows up with some gears, right? Damn, that he probably got from Dr. Peregrine. That's cool, call back obviously from earlier, but they look like dragons, which is cool. But nice. It speeds up quite a bit, which is good. The information zone then dissipates. Once they're done, the people are saved, and then we get Baiken's like speech to May, right?
Is Delilah gonna be okay?
Whatever that means. Whether she gets her revenge or not, it won't make a difference. She won't die well. Unless she finds a better way to live.
Wait a sec. Who have I heard say that before? Right! Anji! He was talking about you!
Huh.
The fact that, again, we're going off this mirror idea that Baiken is saying the same words as Anji. A, just shows their connection and how tied they are. And that's really sweet, but also just how Anji, we knew, is concerned for Baiken, wants the best for her, but just how concerned Baiken is now for Delilah. And I think, again, going off the mirrors, she's finally starting to piece all everything together with what Anji meant by the mirror. Just beautiful, right? And it's just, it's just a happy little couple, right? I love all the Anji and Baiken stuff as well, just like the Delilah. Ram then goes, of course, to help Delilah, since the teleportation spell still won't stop. Ram's going to keep her safe, right? We also see that like similar effects to like Bedman's crown are on Ram after she enters. So I'm still thinking it's like a connection to information density backyard, since all magic is drawn from there. But it's just interesting, right? The Phalanx 9 then says something interesting when talking about like what's going on to Baiken. He says, right, like if the girl doesn't quit panicking, it could get planet-sized. And see, this is because at the end I'm still a little confused on exactly if they teleported or not. I've heard some people say they have, I heard some people say they didn't. But I mean, it's just like, does this mean that she could end up teleporting the whole planet somewhere else? Like to possibly another universe? Is that what they're trying to imply? Or do they just mean that if Ram doesn't manage to like get the sphere under control and help kind of calm her down, planet size is just referring to like the teleportation range? I'm thinking it literally could be either or. I mean, we know Delilah's really powerful, so the first one could make sense that she could maybe teleport the whole world if she wanted to, or it's just the second one of the entire world. So up to you to interpret, but that's kind of what I got out of it personally.
Believe. faith is strong enough for salvation.
There is no salvation, only Armageddon. But she's again piecing everything together, right? Like she realizes that her faith, her belief in Delilah will actually set her free, right? Just like how Anji was trying to do. And since Anji, while he can't relate to Baiken's ability to recognize it, now that she can recognize it, and that since Delilah's also so young, she's gonna again put her belief in Delilah and try to help her again reach that salvation. We then see this lovely scene of Ram smiling naturally, right, for the first time that we've gotten to see. This is a big deal because in Zerd we saw that Sin and Alpha really wanted to get Ram to smile, but she kept forcing it. It just looked, well, scary. She was able to, well, like for the first time smile, and instead of scaring Delilah, it relieved her. And it's just beautiful again to see that whole arc also come to a conclusion. I think it's just something that a lot of people really miss in this story, but again, another beautiful scene. And then of course Baiken finally steps into the dome.
Hey, Delilah. You're a pain in my ass, you know that?
Get out of here now! You can't handle this information density!
Good point. Thanks. So you're the one. You're in the mirror Anji was talking about.
Big sis.
We're going.
Huh?
We're going. Together. And we'll stay together night and day. We'll eat and we'll laugh together. And our revenge, let's give it up. Together.
Mirror of the world. So beautiful, man. I mean, first, right, you got like the you're a pain in my ass. That's referencing Naga's arcade a little bit.
So you must be Anji's Ronin.
And you must be a pain in the ass.
So that's kind of funny. It's a cute callback, to each other, right? But again, also just Baiken's finally been able to put together what Anji meant by the mirror. And again, it's just so beautiful to see Anji put these two, obviously didn't plan for this to happen, but just set up them two and just find a way that these two can help each other and connect. Anji doesn't get a lot of credit here, obviously, because he's not here, but just again, it's just so beautiful to just see finally her realize that, or accept Delilah. And as we saw earlier, she wanted to push her away, but now she's like, no, I wanted to push you away and do this on my own. I didn't want to take away my own pain and suffering, but I have to move on as well, and that hurts. So if I'm gonna get you to move on, like I'm gonna move on as well. Like we're doing this together. I need you, you need me. And it's just beautiful, man. Like the whole our revenge. Let's give it up together. Like, oh, the hearts, Oh my god. And then Delilah's eyes like widen for the first time as she calms down and she's finally able to, move on. Which we actually saw Bedman, his eyes like widen at the realization for the first time. Well, not the first time, I think there were a few other times, but right at that last moment, right, his eyes widened at the realization that Arios was betraying him. And I think this is just, again, a beautiful contrast to that of, instead of realizing something terrible happened, realizing that something, the person that you thought you liked betrayed you, realizing that the person that you like is going to be there with you together, even through, thick and thin, right? Oh my god. Dude, it's just so beautiful. And it's so fitting, again, that we see the Bedman's bed. like the rain makes it look as if those tears, right? Because as we discussed earlier, Bedman specifically said he wanted Delilah to feel the warm embrace of another human being. And this right here, the hug, it's exactly what Bedman wanted. So finally he can move on in peace. He doesn't have to, possess the bed. He doesn't have to rely on that magic anymore. He can finally move on knowing Delilah's in good hands. And just, again, how fucking moving, right? We then get into, Faust again, square one. We now see, how Faust transformed and into what he's like today, which is just cool. I'm glad they did show that, didn't just glimpse over it, right? He put his all on the line. He went back too far, as they say, in his arcade and in the interview that they did a while ago. So, But again, we're back to square one. You see his soul leave his body, and he's at peace. He's a new person from here on out. And it's more like a metaphor and funny, right, that he changed. But again, Faust is letting that trauma, that guilt finally let go and is going to live a new life again, going back to square one, forgetting all the shit that happened and just being a doctor who's going to try to save people. So, very lovely way that they kind of made that happen, for sure. And of course, got the ending finally, right? Again, I can't tell here. I mean, you can look at this shot, right? If Delilah and Baiken, maybe even Ram actually teleported, it's just too far away. I've seen people debate both sides. I've seen some people say just Baiken and Delilah teleported, but Ram didn't. I've seen, just literally everything. So again, we'll have to see. Let me know what you guys think for sure. But either, again, if the spell did go off and she calmed down, that makes sense. Or if it didn't and, she teleported, Baiken's could be there for her. Either way, it's going to be good story, good setup. But let me know what you guys think, because honestly, I can't determine yet. But yeah, the people below then in this beautiful scene as well realize that Gears saved them. Instead of shouting him out or anything, they're just like, no, they saved us. Instead of hatred, they just are like, wow, Gears saved us. And that, I think, the reason that we brought up Kai Kisuke is because this was probably the first moment that just normal everyday people saw and recognized Gears and realized these people helped us. We're okay. This is really kind of maybe the starting point of that coexistence of humans and Gears. And it's cool that while Kai was trying to make that happen at the G4, that this then happened here, right during it, right? So very beautiful. And oh my god. Again, I just like that we're going on this path. I do fear, again, especially if you look at the Guilty Gear Shrine, Smell the Game song, it literally says mankind knew they could not change society, so instead of reflecting on themselves, they blame the beast. We see that Testament almost seems like they're also on this arc of they're going to try to be pushed into the coexistence of Gears and humans and get betrayed or something. So I'm glad we're off to a positive start. Hopefully we can stay there. Hopefully nothing bad happens. I mean, there's just too many things pointing that something bad's gonna happen. I don't want it to happen, okay? Not to the guy Testament, okay? I love Testament. God damn it. But it's okay. It's okay. Okay. Anyways, similar to the beginning, right? We have more text. And similar to at the beginning, right? We have some just text at the end. The first thing that we see is just, and thus the crisis was averted. Yeah, because it was. Meanwhile, the terrorist attack on the U.S. ceased. Good. For now, the eyes of the world were turned upon chaos. Makes sense, right? That was kind of a bigger deal, of course. Just recapping story one, but the next part of the text channel is much more important, right? But eventually, the story of the Gear and her crew who saved the city through their bravery spread far and wide. Story of the Gear and her crew. Because, this is... Okay, Ram is not a Gear. Or is she? You could technically... Okay, because here's the thing. Gears are people who, are, beings who, draw power from the backyard or, made with the backyard's power. Ram is a Valentine who's, a being made from the backyard, but it's a very similar thing, right? The story of the Gear I thought was referring to Sin, but, again, they say her here, so... I don't know if we're now referring to as a Gear. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of the same idea and everything, but just interesting there, right? Yeah. It's also interesting, too, because as we see here, Kai Kisuke presented himself in full to the public and announced that he would, abdicate the throne of Illyria. So, He announced himself great, like he said he would at the G4 summits, just as I thought he would, obviously exactly like this.
I merely said that I plan to make my family public at G4.
Which is a little weird, and like, okay, well, it's because, like, right, Daryl went to the G4 summits. Kai did not, which makes sense given that they don't want to, like, have all their kings go. It's kind of like one person per nation. So was Daryl gonna, like, actually announce this to the world? Be like, yo, one of our kings married a gear, now they have a kid. Is that okay? Or was, like, Kai gonna, like, call in and be like, yo, I got my hot wife, she's actually a gear, and I got my kids a gear. Anyways, hope your meeting's going well, like.
So, clearly I'm a genius, right? But nah. And then he announced he would abdicate the throne of Illyria. This is kind of a big deal. He just left the throne. Like, okay. I mean, cool. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just like, who's the king now? That's the real question, right? So, you know, and then it says, like, his decision was not made out of self-interest. In fact, perhaps it led to Gears getting the right to citizenship. Interesting. Wonder what that can mean. And we get our final piece of dialogue, right? You know, the very interesting, for the first time in history, humankind welcomed a non-human leader. Who? What? How are people just glossing over this fact? Kai's not the first king anymore. They accepted a non-human as their leader. Who could it be? Okay, speculation, right? Is it Sin? Sin's kind of a dumbass, but maybe not. It kind of makes sense, right? He's his son. He's the heir. Sure, he could do it. He'd make a fine king, but I don't really think this is his style. Dizzy, maybe. Does she really have any motive to, or desire? Maybe, I guess. It would be kind of weird, too, if he just passed the throne on to his wife. Right? I think the more likely people are probably Ram, right? Because this was her story, and it says, like, her tale got her, you know, wide, like, everywhere. The gear and her crew. They also called her a non-human earlier, right? So that could be a nod back at that. So I think it would also make a lot of sense, and then we get to see more of that Leo and Ram connection, because we know that she has a big crush on him through this. So I think my prediction would probably be her right now. Other characters be like Dr. Peregrine. We know he's very smart. We know he has connections to Leo. We know he's done a lot for Illyria and just the nation. So it makes sense that people will be willing to accept him. Izuna, I'd like that. I think that'd be pretty cool, but I don't really see Izuna doing it. Again, he just doesn't seem like that's his thing, but hey, could be him, you never know. And it could be others, but I think those are probably the three most likely, right? Maybe Elfelt, I doubt it. Again, I don't think she'd make that great of leader. Sorry, Elfelt, sorry, I know. But or maybe advocating the throne was more, I was going to say maybe because, like, Kai's technically part gear, right? Because you got the things technically, but I don't think so. I think a new king or queen, the first queen of Illyria being Ram, I think that's probably where I'm leaning at more right now. But again, very interesting, very dope for sure. And like we knew that. The interesting thing too, right, is this does, well, you might be like, oh well, why did Kai take the throne? In Zerd, it was shown that, like, the reason he didn't even want to really become king. He didn't. The Conclave basically blackmailed him into it. Now that the Conclave's not around anymore, and he has this opportunity to leave the throne in, like, a very positive way, why wouldn't he, right? So, again, we'll have to see on that, but yeah, I mean, that's it. That's the story. We made it. We made it here. This video is so flipping long, but we did it. Good job. I stuck through it. I hope you learned something. I hope you can appreciate this chapter a little more. Was I hoping for a longer story like everyone else? Absolutely. Did we kind of deserve more when they said a story and then just give us a chapter? Yeah, I feel like we were kind of led astray, right? Like, they should have just said, like, oh, extra material, extra chapter, something. But it's fine. Again, this was really beautiful. Hopefully we get more stories soon, right? Like, there's still so many plot threads and stuff that we have to cover, right? Happy Chaos, you know, Nagariyuki's connection to Slayer, Nagariyuki's connection to Chip, you know, Slayer, demi-humans, just parallel worlds. How is Happy Chaos going to come back? Is Ino's probably another parallel world. Is she ever going to come back? Let's learn about Megamine, let's learn about Will or Axel, right? Like, there's just, like, what's Soul up to? Or will we just going to not use the Flame of Corruption? Is that just out of the game now? Because, you know, Asuka's holding on to that. Is he going to give it to someone like Sin? Like, there's so many, again, plot points and stuff that we still need answered. So, I really hope we get another long story, at least one. I mean, they did do that in Zerd. I really hope we don't just do one chapter per season. I mean, I don't think we could cover that much. But again, we'll have to see. Anyways, man, I don't know, man. Thanks for watching, right? Yeah, let me know if what you guys thought about this. Again, sorry it was really long, I guess. I just kind of wanted to cover all the bases. Really, thank you if you made it this far. It really does mean a lot to me. I did put a lot of work in this video. That's why it's coming out much later than what I've liked to. You know, I had to kind of just slowly chip at it during this week. But, you know, I really appreciate it again. Love y'all so much. And hey, take care, guys.